Hey everybody, I'm Erin May, B2B editor at Stack Overflow, and today we have another episode of Leaders of Code for you. This is the second part of our conversation between Ryan J. Salva, Senior Director of Product at Google, and Stack Overflow's Director of Platform Engineering, Peter O'Connor. We'll link to the first part of this conversation in the show notes for you. Hope you enjoy.
I think in platform engineering, that is what's always held us back is that context of internal knowledge is not anywhere in. You can't go to Gemini today and say, tell me about Stack Overflow's CI/CD pipeline, default CI/CD pipeline. It's gonna be like, I don't even, what are you talking about, right? Or it'll hallucinate something. So, like it would seem to me that there's a call nowadays to really double down on those parts of engineering culture that usually get traded off fast, which is documentation, clarity of information, putting it in the right spots, making sure your stories are well written, and having sources of truth of those things. Like, how important do you see that in the future? Because for an internal AI to like an internal MCP, sure, it could connect to every Jira, every piece of wiki we have, or Stack Overflow for Teams we have, and just to try to digest so much knowledge to try to get to those answers, or you could have those answers more crafted. How important do you see that going to be in the future?
I'm really glad that you're kind of bringing this up because for a long time, I think a lot of us who are developers have somewhat with a bit of pride and boastfulness said, developers are lazy. Like and then like in a good way. We like the short path to solutions, right? I mean that truly. I think that is a mark of pride. And also, one of the things that I am definitely seeing from a behavior perspective as we adopt more and more AI, it is very easy to allow the AI to just write the documentation for me. Cool, good enough. I'm sure it's fine. It's got lots of multi-syllabic words and it looks really professional. It's been formatted with some pretty bullet points, right?
And emojis, I'm sure it
Yeah, and
has that.
emojis. We are lulled so easily by the emojis. But if we are not being careful curators, arbiters of taste and accuracy in this, and then we are creating a body of work that will effectively misinform both the models and our collaborators, our peers, our colleagues, right? And so one of the things that I don't want to say struggle with, but I work with my team is really thinking about not just what is the velocity of our shipping, and are we producing a lot of blog posts and release notes every week, and are we all of that is good stuff. We need to be doing that. That is the kind of thing that I love. But also that we're not just allowing ourselves to accrue a bunch of documentation and technical debt along the way, because you can really get intoxicated by the velocity and the pace of shipping things. And yeah, again, you have to do that. But it will build up over time, and there'll come a point, I mean, in every platform's lifetime where the refactoring and the re-architecture and the technical debt comes due, right? And when that happens, you don't want it to be a cataclysmic event that you've like have to pause all new feature development because you've waited too long. And so along the way, if we're not really being careful to hold ourselves and our work to a high bar, then that re-architecture, that refactoring will come to much faster. And you know, let's face it, like the AI, it is just a tool for us, right? We are still responsible for the output of the work. And so end up spending within my teams and the kind of the engineering teams that I kind of work with and listen to a lot more time really talking about how much time are we spending on the code review itself? How much time are we spending as a team talking about the architecture and the patterns? And what is the shape of the eventual application that we want to deliver? Not just from a user experience standpoint, but from an architectural standpoint. And that ends up, those are the kinds of conversations that I think are really fun. I think they're creative and they allow you to think big, but it does mean that a lot of those architecture conversations that used to only happen among our most senior principal staff engineers and Uber tech leads, right? Those conversations are now the everyday domain of our, level two engineers, because we all need to be thinking at the architecture level. We all need to be thinking about, okay, are we actually communicating out the right information to our customers, our users? In my case, most of my customers are developers, right? So documentation is paramount. And the quality of that documentation, it's not just in that architecture, it's going to compound over time, because large language models are brilliant imitators. What they will do is imitate what is around them. And so if the code, if the documentation is not already exactly what you want it to be, and really pristine, then it's going to find that it doesn't know it's an anti-pattern, but it will find that vulnerability, that soft spot in the code, and it will amplify it again and again and again.
Yeah, that's really like super valuable to hear. I think what you're telling me is very pragmatic when we think about platform. We have to keep our golden knowledge maintained. And if that's in a document or a markdown file, the README, those all matter a lot, including things like, you know, contribution guidelines, PR guidelines. How these got to be there, right? And all,
Yeah.
all AI will do is be it'll quick hit the wall quicker, right? That's which is good, I guess. We find out we hit the wall, and we have a gap, but we need to that means you have to button those up even faster or your velocity goes down, and it's not a
Yeah.
good experience for people.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you one fun little, and I'm sure many of our listeners have probably discovered this themselves, but a thing that I've been delighted by in the last year or so has been that when we do find the code quality, the architecture isn't quite what we wanted, or the documentation isn't quite, accurate, it will often manifest in the model producing an unexpected change of some kind, or an unexpected response. What'll happen is the model, again, it's drawing from the context that's around it. That could be documentation or tests or code or somewhere else, data that's in a database somewhere, but it's going to find that bad, I'm putting this in scare quotes, that bad content, and it will then give you a response, and you're like, huh, like that's not what I would have, that's not the code change I would have expected. That's not the implementation path that I would have expected for this. And often that can be a pointer to, okay, I need to go, what were your references? What was the context that you used in order to produce this? And then I can use the models to go and ask for a repair, both to fix the bad content, whether that's a doc change or a code change. But then also what we'd end up doing is we say, okay, model, Gemini, how can we prevent similar accidents or similar bad content of whatever, bad coding patterns from being replicated again? The model then goes back, it self-reflects on it, says, oh, you can add this type of test, or I can add this type of guidance. And then we commit that guidance into a markdown file for the repo, or to a RAG database somewhere where we're maintaining our knowledge or engineering documentation. And that adds to the kind of the corpus of knowledge that informs the model, that prevents us from making those kinds of mistakes in the future. So again, thinking as a platform engineer, part of platform engineering is I'll call it risk mitigation, for lack of a better word, right? It's about boxing in and learning from our past mistakes so that we follow that golden path, to use your words, right? So that we follow that golden path again. And so if we can use the model in order to more quickly create those rules and that kind of organizational memory for ourselves, and that will narrow the golden path a little bit more. So in the future, we've got an additional safety net and an additional bit of guidance for us.
yeah, that's really powerful. I even as you were talking, makes me think a lot about how you can use AI to even hit those walls and find the gaps and have telemetry just easily come out and signal your teams to, maybe AI then puts out his Jira tickets, and then you can group those by, again, AI. And then now you already know the priority because you know how many people are hitting this wall, right? Like, and so you solve the right problems again, right? You're not solving the wrong problems, you're solving the right problems, right?
Absolutely.
Platform for me is also about enablement, right? I always think about enablement, and I'm, another hat I put on here is a senior leader at Stack, and I want people to embrace AI pragmatically. And you probably run into developers every day that are both very excited about AI and some of them that'll just swear it off. If I want to like platformize, if I want to like become a better leader who enables everyone from in that spectrum to use AI in the way that helps them the best, like,
Yeah.
do you have thoughts like how you've approached that problem in the past to enable people to grasp and use this new technology, which is itself hard to learn?
So I think we talked a little bit earlier about standardization and platforms, right? You get common shared components, and by the way, that those shared components go not just for code, but they also go for the tools that we use as well, right? So many organizations standardize on the same CI/CD pipeline. Everyone, we all use the same CI pipeline. That's just what we do. We use GitHub Actions, or we use GitLab, or we use Harness, or whatever it happens to be. And I firmly believe in the power of standardization for tool chains, both because it allows individuals to transfer their skill sets as they move from one team to the next. We talked earlier about it allowing you to, when you fix one problem, it gets fixed everywhere. Standardization allows that to kind of replicate out. It also prevents the challenge of, the old, well, it works on my machine. I don't know why it doesn't work on yours, right? If everyone's using the same environment, then you're good. And also for AI in particular, that is not the pattern that I see most commonly today. In most larger organizations, if I'm really being honest, what I see is organizations that buy some Copilot licenses, they buy some Cursor, they buy some Gemini, they buy some Anthropic Claude. It's a party, man. Everything's in there. There's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I think that is because we're at a moment for the technology where it's moving so fast. The best tool today is not the worst, but not the best tool tomorrow. It seems like every 2 weeks the whole landscape shifts a little bit. GPT-5 is out now. Gemini 3 is going to be out, and all these other things, right? So everyone's just saying, yeah, we got to have our fingers in a little bit of all of the different tools because we're all learning together. And this is where I want to settle on the point for enablement, right? Bringing it back around to enablement. I think the most powerful thing that you can do today is allow your developers to get practice, to just make the tools part of how they do things. Let them experiment. And so many leaders right now are really almost myopically focused on measuring productivity, on measuring velocity. And I'm not saying that that is not a noble and virtuous cause. I've spent a long career trying to do that in various different forms. If you're not familiar, like the Door team reports up through me. I spent a lot of time with them working on research. I did a lot of research at GitHub on developer productivity as well. That is endlessly fascinating. And also, if we get caught up too much on, hey, are we delivering more PRs this month? Are we delivering more lines of code? Is our lead time shrinking? All good stuff to measure. But if that is our exclusive measure of value, then we're kind of missing the point right now. Really what we need is practice with the tools because there's going to be a lot of volatility over the next couple of years. It will settle down. Everyone, it's going to be okay. Everyone listening, it's going to be fine. It's going to settle down eventually. Just like we made the comparison with DevOps 15 years ago. DevOps 15 years ago, there were a gajillion different providers. Everyone was like feeling out different ways of doing project management and agile methodology and CI pipelines and all that kind of stuff. But eventually it settled down. AI will do the same thing. It will eventually settle down. What we all need right now is we just need the time and the practice to build up the skill sets. More than anything else right now, what I see is, and and I mean this in the most humble way possible, but I see a lot of overconfidence. I see a lot of folks who are like, oh, they got the buzzword bingo. MCP, baby. I know markdowns. I know agent to agent protocol. I got my Grok on. Like, they got all these different buzzwords. But in fact, when it comes to actual implementation, everyone's still, maybe if we're not fumbling in the dark, we're fumbling in a dimly lit room at the moment
Mm-hmm.
as we learn how to use these tools. And so give your teams the time and the space to practice, create environments, and all of these can be shared Slack or chat rooms. It can be lunches, like find ways where folks can share tips, tricks, experiences, do paired AI programming, whereas your pair isn't the AI agent. I mean, you and another developer sitting and talking about how you're using the AI in order to accomplish a particular task and what's working for you. And spend time just getting better with the technology and learning how to use it. That that shared learning is what's really, really important. And I guarantee you, because I see it in the outcomes that actually are produced by the teams who practice this, your teams do get smaller. They do start to move faster. You do get a better kind of like ship pace and velocity. You do start to see your quality even rise up a little bit. You start to see your doc teams using AI to produce manual tests to keep pace with your engineering team. All these things do happen, but really it's creating the environment that allows your team to share together and to learn together. And so a director at a company like Stack Overflow, if I give you any advice, it'd be like, bring your team together if you can in person, if not over, video chat and whatever you happen to use, Zoom, GVC, and have shared workshops, have places where folks can demo not just the software that they built, but how they built it, and let that shared learning start to percolate through your organization so that you get a more even distribution of skills. Because even among the best companies, this is true at Google today, right? At Google today, AI is part of our default development environment. It is it's not a choice whether you use it or not. It's baked into it. It's built into it. But that doesn't mean that everyone is equally adept
Right.
at leveraging it and using it. There is uneven distribution of impact and benefit. Sometimes it's because of the type of code they're writing, but more often than not, it's because of the amount of practice they've got.
Appreciate that. I'll kind of round up with your we're saying there. It is as a leader who really tries to empower people, the builders, right? You said create, you craft and you create. I also use the word builder a lot. Like we're builders, and it's everything we do is somewhat custom, so we're always emergently thinking, and thus giving space for that is the fundamentally most important thing we can do. And if we do that, the outcome of amazing code, amazing delivery, amazing value to our users will always occur because people really are want to do the right thing just by nature of being a builder. So I appreciate hearing you say that.
100%, man.
Yeah.
Well, dude, this
Well,
has been really, really
this is
fun. Thank you so much for
thank you.
inviting the conversation, asking super smart questions, and thank you for building a great product that is so foundational to everything that the development community has been and will become. Stack Overflow is a tremendous resource for so many of us.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate Google too.
I have been Ira May. I'm the B2B editor here at Stack Overflow. If you ever have any suggestions for guests or topics that you'd like to hear covered on the show, you can always email podcast@stackoverflow.com.
I'm Peter O'Connor. I'm director of platform engineering here at Stack Overflow. Best place to find me is on LinkedIn. You can find me at O'Connor Peter K, and you'll get me. A guy with a colorful shirt is me.
And friends, I'm Ryan J. Salva at Ryan J. Salva everywhere: LinkedIn, GitHub, X, developer, product manager, and whiskey enthusiast at large. I look forward to seeing all of you online. Also, please come and check out our open source repository, Gemini-CLI on GitHub.
Thanks, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of the Stack Overflow podcast.